Okay, everybody, of course, 13 News Now is in storm mode as we are tracking the latest with Ian. Craig Moeller here to answer questions about this storm. Craig, the first thing, a lot of people, they've been following Ian's trajectory. They probably have watched on the news. They've seen what's happened in Florida, elsewhere. For Hampton Roads, it's not going to be the same as what we've seen in other parts of the country.
Let me put everybody's minds at ease here locally. If you're in the 757 or Northeast North Carolina, it won't be nearly as bad as what they saw down in Florida. Florida, they were hit, one of the strongest storms to hit the U.S. on record. I mean, it was a Cat 4, powerful system. Here's what you need to know about Hampton Roads and our impacts, okay? This system's evolving. All right, you heard me say on Daybreak this morning, it's kind of a hybrid storm. We'll talk more about that, right? But it's still packing quite a punch. We're looking at significant rainfall, 4 to 7 inches, maybe a little bit higher in some localized areas. And the winds we've noticed already picking up. You had a chance to get out after the show. Were you already starting to feel the wind picking up?
Oh, yeah, you can feel the wind. It's definitely one of those days where you want to put down your phone, 2 hands on the wheel. It's wet outside as well. Absolutely.
And with the winds coming in from the northeast, that's driving our tide levels up. Minor to moderate tidal flooding is expected. I thought I'd show you this graphic because I think this really speaks to kind of what the main threats are. When we have a tropical system, we worry about flooding rain. We worry about gusty winds, tidal flooding, and at times, possibility of tornadoes. This is the big change that I made from yesterday. You can see we are looking at a threat of moderate to high threat, actually, of the issues with the heavy downpours. You get some tropical rain, and let's say you get several cells rolling over the same area, you could have some flash flooding. And there is actually a flood watch that we'll show you in a bit. Winds gusting over 40. We're already getting winds gusting in the upper 30s to a little bit over 40 miles per hour. So that's a thing that we're looking at. Tidal flooding. We're now looking at minor to moderate tidal flooding with the high tide Friday afternoon for Hampton Roads. And then this afternoon and evening. This is a change, Eugene. We talked about this yesterday. There would be a threat with a landfalling tropical system, but now it appears because this system's a little more hybrid, there's going to be a lot of energy a little farther north. There's now, I'd say, a moderate threat of isolated tornadoes. I do expect a few of those late afternoon and tonight.
You've used that word hybrid a few times throughout the morning, and then also, obviously, here in our conversation. What does that mean?
So, when you look at a hurricane, you think about the eye, and you'll see the eye wall. It's this really, beautiful thing to see. And when a hurricane is fully involved, you'll see it has almost a shape like a donut or a tire, where you've got this rain wrapping all the way around it, and the structure is in such a way that it vents out the top. There's all these things going on. In this case, as I will show you with the satellite and the radar images, there's been some shear. It's interacting with the trough. There's some dry air coming in. It looks more like a traditional system that might march across the United States, not tropical at all. It looks like it's associated with a cold front or an occluded front. So it's still packing a punch. It still has hurricane force winds. But when we look at it on satellite, you'll see not quite looking that much like a hurricane right now. Do want to mention, though, those winds still gusting up close to 50 miles per hour. We've got a wind advisory. You can see, again, the northeast winds. We've got coastal flood warnings for Hampton Roads, southern part of the eastern shore and the peninsula, advisories to the north and down to the south. These are all things that are coming up. And we talked about those tide levels. Here you go, Eugene. Moderate tidal flooding, 1253 is the high tide for Sewell's Point. This is the measuring gauge for Hampton Roads. So a lot of times we talk about flooding in the usual places like Larchmont, maybe around the Hague, some of these different areas. Today, we're going to see water in some places that maybe we don't always see it with some of these events. It's going to be a little bit higher. And with the freshwater rain falling on areas that are already backed up with the high tide, it's going to exacerbate things. It's going to look worse. Fortunately, tomorrow morning, just after midnight, around 1 a.m. Saturday, it drops down a little bit. Minor tidal flooding, and you can see at Yorktown, minor tidal flooding expected today and tomorrow. There's that flood watch. Again, just a lot of rain coming into the area.
Now, as somebody who's not as familiar being in Hampton Roads, I've been here 2 years, but I haven't really been around for a lot of these tropical storm hurricanes. One question I had, we had downgraded it down to a tropical storm, and other people maybe have gone to sleep and they were like, it was a tropical storm and now it's a hurricane again. How does that happen in this context?
So yesterday we talked about this. You know, the Hurricane Center had this forecast as a tropical storm. It weakened over Florida. You think about these hurricanes, they need that warm, moist air near the sea surface to feed and fuel the system. That's literally the gas that keeps the fire burning. Well, when it moves over land, it loses that energy from the warm, moist air. So it weakened, and that's what happened when it moved over Florida. It got back out over the Gulf Stream. That's very warm air, and it started to ramp back up. It's something I said during daybreak yesterday. I said, look, the forecast track calls for it to be a tropical storm, but don't be surprised if we see it upticking, and that's exactly what happened late yesterday and today. We got that uptick. So now we've got this system that strengthened a little bit. As it comes back in over land later this afternoon, it's going to weaken again quickly and eventually become a remnant low out to our west. I did want to mention, with the tropical system coming in and interacting with land, we're going to have to watch for some potential for severe weather. We've got a level 2 threat. This is from the Storm Prediction Center, and they've got us outlooked. The main threat here is actually, you know, we're going to have the gusty winds. We know that. But isolated tornadoes may be the issue. And you can see this is a tornado threat kind of for today and this evening. It includes the eastern shore, the middle peninsula, the peninsula, Southside Hampton Roads, and eastern North Carolina. You've got a lot of energy coming in. It interacts with the friction of the land, and sometimes you get these little short-lived spin-up tornadoes. You don't get a lot of warning. You know, you'll see this line, all of a sudden it's like, oh, we got one spinning up here. You deal with it, they can still do damage, and then they go away pretty quickly. So Evan, Jeff, myself, the entire team here, 13 News Now, we're going to be watching and reacting to what we get. Which
it'll be really important for people to stay tuned in, you know, having your weather radios, having your phones nearby, being able to follow in with our apps. The other question I had for you is, I know I went to the store yesterday, a lot of people did, just in case, you know, preparing, etc. How long can we expect maybe the worst of the portions of the storm that we're going to experience to be here in Hampton Roads?
I expect the worst of this really later today and tonight. Okay. We're going to see big improvements for tomorrow. Still chances for showers, but there's going to be a little bit of a break, a little bit of a dry slot. As we go Sunday, we could see some more enhanced rainfall, maybe the winds picking up depending on if this thing kind of stalls and then moves back out. It's really going to come down to what this thing does beyond today. But certainly over the next 48 hours, it appears the worst of it will come this afternoon and tonight. I just wanted to mention real quickly how rough it's going to be on the bay. Waves 5 to 8 feet. On the ocean waters east of Virginia Beach, 9 to 14 feet. Storm warnings are up. Winds gusting around 50 knots. So pretty crazy there. You look at the wave heights offshore, you're talking 15 to 20 footers, even higher than that for some areas farther off. For our area, again, some minor beach erosion will be possible. We'll be watching for that. You remember us talking about this being this hybrid. Again, it doesn't have that perfect balance where the rain's all the way around it. It's really kind of lopsided. The most violent winds are on the west side of this center of circulation and very much approaching South Carolina, that heavy tropical rain moving towards North Carolina. So there's the latest track. This was with the 8 a.m. advisory, Eugene. You can see Hurricane Category 1 coming in, making landfall this afternoon, weakening dramatically between 2 o'clock this afternoon, 85 mile per hour winds, and by 2 a.m. you're looking at 50 mile per hour winds. So it does weaken, and eventually a remnant low that's centered well out to our west with just 35 mile per hour winds. There's a look at the future cast. You can see the rain over the area. Notice these heavy areas coming through, some of that heavier rain. So we're going to continue to watch that. Again, some of these cells overnight could produce some isolated tornadoes, plenty to watch there, and the rainfall amounts pretty significant. So we just want folks to stay mindful again as we go along. Very important what you need to take away. Yeah, we are looking at the worst conditions today and tonight. Heavy rain, wind, maybe a few isolated tornadoes. Saturday, not quite as breezy, but still some showers, and then some more heavy rain later in the weekend. There's a lot for us to watch.
Yeah, definitely. And again, you want to stay tuned. Craig, thanks for breaking all of that down. Stay tuned with our apps. Stay tuned with us online. Keep your phone, your weather radios, and make sure you're staying safe if you have to go out there as well.
You got it. Stay weather aware, guys. We'll get through this one.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you.